Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And from there is like pretty natural. It would be great to hear a little bit of your thoughts. You mentioned that the game is not for amateurs, for sure. At least in Brazil, the game is for dreamers in Argentina, and
Mhm.
we've seen that throughout now the past couple hundred years. It's been people have been moving towards the west from Europe to chase their dreams. But what has been now going on in terms of an M&A in the region? There's not a lot of information unless you're part of these networks. There's a lot of activities that are happening according to the IMAP. If I have all the latest stats already in Brazil by itself, in 22, there were 1,600 deals that were closed. Those are phenomenal numbers. So there's a lot of activity. So what is overall happening? Are you able to share a little bit to the audience that the state of mergers and acquisitions? Is there activity? What has been happening? You've been playing the game for quite a while. Overall, the thoughts. What's going on?
Oh, Brazil is a very complex market. It's usually an inbound market, meaning there's more interest in people investing in Brazil than the Brazilian companies investing abroad. Usually, Brazilian companies only consider M&A when all the opportunities are exhausted in their home market. As
Yeah.
an example, for Itaú, which is the largest bank in Brazil, it started looking abroad when our antitrust authority didn't allow it to continue acquiring more banks.
Yeah.
And there was already too much concentration in the home market. So it's usually an inbound market. But it's because of its size, as you said, there's a lot of transactions. You have a right number there, um, but it's uh, it's also very competitive. All the major players are in Brazil, so all the investment bulge bracket firms have offices or operations here in Brazil. So Morgan Stanley, Goldman, J.P. Morgan, all of them, and also the large commercial banks like Itaú, Bradesco, Santander. They all have investment bank operations. BTG is also a big player. They are players in other countries in Latin America as well. So we and there are a lot of boutiques. So M&A boutiques like Brasilpar, which are comprised of several partners which have market experience in large banks, most of them abroad. And we decided to go independent and to provide that kind of service to middle market clients. So that's more or less the dynamic of the market. So we try to punch above our weight to get larger transactions, but it's a very competitive market. And sometimes we, once we cross a certain line in terms of size, then we start to compete against banks.
And how many, let's say, M&A boutiques and overall people who are dealing with the M&A in Brazil? Do you have any ballpark estimate that how many? You said it's very competitive, and I understand, but it's very hard to grasp. How many players are competing for providing these services?
I would say that relevant players, we have more than 15 boutiques.
15 boutiques.
Yeah. But obviously, there are smaller players which are not well known, or sometimes they are just being established. Like, for example, sometimes it's a very common dynamic. Like you make your career in a large bank, and at certain point you leave, you're tired of the long hours, and you decide to set up your own shop. So basically, some people have their relationships fresh. They have advised some clients in a certain industry that they think they are good at a certain type of industry. For example, they decide to set up their own shop, and so there is always news of new M&A boutiques popping up. So it's a very competitive market. But Brasilpar, for example, has been around since 1976. So basically, we are probably the longest standing M&A boutique in Brazil. Not usually at the same format, not all the time at the same format, but we are probably the longest standing one.
So you're doing something right. You've been there for quite a while, so
Yeah.
the clients must like what you're doing. So it's not you not being just
It's a reputation of ethics and also excellence in execution, right?
Absolutely. And then Pablo, how would you describe then what is happening in Argentina? Argentina has been, especially in the recent years, a lot more volatile, and you're just a true survivor, um, fixing deals and still playing the game in Argentina. How would you describe then what has been going on in Argentina?
Well, regarding M&A activity, you mean M&A activity is extremely modest today, um, both in number of deals and in volume. And it's obvious because there's limited inbound of foreign investment because there are so many controls that nobody would like to come to put their money in Argentina when the number one, there are different type of foreign exchange that are completely crazy. And number two, you won't be able to take your money back with today's regulations. No. Number two, there's uncertain. Also, there's a completely uncertain economic and political environment that the only deals that today happen are maybe in the energy sector, maybe in the tech sector that work for outside the country, but otherwise it is very, very limited.
And how has it been? Let's say the huge boom years of the '90s, going after the huge crisis of '01 in Argentina, and then how has the M&A activity been in between then these multiple different crises that you've been going through? You've had this huge, growth periods where everybody's been hailing Argentina, and then just huge busts when everybody's getting out of Argentina. Well,
Right.
what has been happening historically? You still have a boutique
Well,
shop in Argentina, so then
yeah,
you've been
yeah,
able to survive
we
at
do.
the end of the day.
Mm. Actually, up to 2005, I was in the private equity business, so
Hmm.
I was scouting for businesses and looking at tremendous amount of companies.
In
And
Argentina specifically.
in Argentina
Yeah.
specifically, also a little bit in Brazil and Chile. Um, so I was on the other side. I was looking for companies and not looking for advisory to advise companies. And that was a boom. Boutiques flourished. Deals were uh, big. There were the privatizations also in the 90s, so everybody was happy there. After the crisis, it was a lot more difficult, but still there was like one rate of exchange, and also the devaluation made companies very cheap in Argentina. So after the 2001 crisis, also it was a real boom up to 2 years after that, for example, in 2003, 2004, because the prices of companies, the valuations were very low. Basically because of the evaluation and
Yeah.
local companies started being competitive at those FX rates. No? And after that, well, I think you know the story. Basically, a lot of government spending, a lot of fiscal deficit, a lot of, I would say, populism, and that inevitably, when you print money, turns into inflation, and that's where we are now, no, facing a very, very difficult times.
Do you think the amount of deals should increase now, given the decrease in valuations, not only worldwide, but also in Argentina? I suspect that valuations are going down more than they are going. Do you think the number of deals should increase?
If the environment, the uncertainty eventually drops, I'm sure there will be a lot of M&A activity in Argentina. Maybe mainly in the natural resources, in energy, in tech, in agribusiness, as usual, but also in other sectors of the economy that might wake up.